He flew in with an apology, or at least that is what it was supposed to be. But the moment he opened his mouth, something felt off. Because this was not just about saying sorry, this was about rewriting history, reopening doors, and testing whether the old rules still applied. And in the first few seconds, the truth slips out, not in what he says, but in what he avoids. And by the time you realize what is really happening, you are no longer watching an apology. You are watching a power play. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. I came here with an apology prepared, or at least that is what it was supposed to look like on the surface, because apologies in this world are rarely about accountability and almost always about access. And the moment he sat down, you could feel that tension hanging in the air. The kind of tension that comes from unfinished business, unresolved power struggles, and years of emotional distance that cannot be erased by carefully chosen words. And when he opened his mouth and said the meanest thing I did was say I didn't love you, but that wasn't true, it was a lie from pain, the statement landed heavy, not because it was sincere, but because it rewrote history in real time, and the audience felt it instantly, because rewriting pain is not the same as owning it. And when he followed that with, "I knew you loved me, I always knew it," the narrative shifted again, because now love became mutual, misunderstanding replaced responsibility, and the hurt was reframed as something shared rather than something caused. And that is where the discomfort begins, because apologies that center the speaker instead of the wound never truly heal. And the reason this moment shocked so many viewers is because they have watched this pattern unfold for years. Moments of warmth offered just long enough to soften resistance. Moments of vulnerability displayed just long enough to regain footing. And then the rules snap back into place, unchanged, untouched, and unchallenged. And this was never just about one relationship. It was about a structure that rewarded silence and punished resistance. And once you understand that, the apology stops sounding like growth and starts sounding like strategy, because the timing is not accidental. The timing aligns with a fractured family, a struggling narrative, and a show that cannot survive without interaction. And so the apology becomes a bridge, not to healing, but to continuation. And when the audience reacts strongly, it is not because they want conflict. It is because they recognize manipulation when they see it, and they refuse to be gaslit into forgetting what they watched unfold season after season. Women asking for presence and receiving distance, children asking for care and being labeled obstacles, and accountability being deflected with explanations about rules, loyalty, and respect that only applied when it benefited one person. And when he speaks about love, it sounds convincing until you place it against action, because love that disappears when challenged is not love, it is convenience. And love that requires silence is not devotion, it is control. And that is why this moment feels explosive, because it forces everyone watching to confront the uncomfortable truth that labels do not define relationships, behavior does. And when you strip away the religious framing and the language of plural marriage, what remains is a hierarchy that was always there. Some relationships central, others conditional. Some voices protected, others dismissed. And once that hierarchy is exposed, everything clicks. The favoritism, the defensiveness, the refusal to engage when things became difficult, and the sudden warmth when access was threatened. And that is why the apology tour feels unsettling, because it asks the audience to accept words in place of change and hope in place of accountability. And the viewers are no longer willing to do that, because they have watched too much, they have seen too clearly, and they understand that reconciliation without restructuring only resets the cycle. And this is where the suspense lives, because the question is not whether forgiveness is possible, the question is whether anything is actually different this time. And as he leans into nostalgia, shared memories, and the idea of what once was, the subtext becomes louder, because nostalgia is a powerful tool, It softens edges, blurs boundaries, and convinces people to ignore the cost of returning to familiar pain. And that is why this conversation feels dangerous, because it risks reopening wounds that took years to close. And the audience holds its breath, not because they want reunion, but because they want truth. They want someone to finally say out loud what has been implied for years, that equality was never real, that sacrifice was never shared, and that love was always conditional. And until that truth is acknowledged, no apology will ever be enough, and no reunion will ever last. And that is the tension driving this moment, because everyone watching knows that this is not just a conversation, it is a crossroads, and what happens next will determine whether the story finally changes or repeats itself all over again. As the conversation continues, the weight of everything unsaid becomes heavier than the words being spoken, because silence has always been the most powerful tool in this dynamic. Silence rewarded, silence protected, silence enforced. And whenever someone broke it, the consequences were swift and isolating, and that is why this moment feels so loaded, because it is framed as reconciliation, but experienced as revision, and the audience senses it immediately, because true accountability does not rush past the damage to reach the comfort of connection. And yet, that is exactly what happens here. The focus drifts toward feelings, intention, and misunderstood love, rather than years of patterned behavior. And when that happens, the responsibility subtly shifts again away from the system and onto the individuals who struggled within it. And that shift is familiar, because it has happened before. Every time concerns were raised, they were reframed as attitude problems. Every time boundaries were set, they were reframed as betrayal. And every time someone chose self-preservation, they were accused of giving up. And that is why this apology tour triggers such a strong reaction, because it threatens to repeat the cycle under the guise of growth. And the audience is no longer willing to ignore the pattern. They see the hierarchy clearly now, how access was granted based on compliance, how attention followed convenience, and how emotional labor was expected but rarely returned. And when you look back through that lens, every major conflict aligns perfectly. Disagreements about time, affection, holidays, and even medical decisions were never really about logistics, they were about priority. And once priority is established, everything else becomes secondary. And that is why certain requests were denied without hesitation, while others were accommodated immediately, because the system was already set, and no amount of conversation could override it. And when someone says, "I can't be away from my family for that long," it is not a slip of the tongue, it is a statement of structure. It reveals who counts and who does not. And once that line is drawn, there is no apology that can erase it without a fundamental shift in values. And that shift has never been demonstrated, only promised. And promises without follow-through become another form of manipulation, because they keep hope alive just long enough to prevent closure. And that is the most dangerous part of all, because closure is power. Closure allows people to move forward. And when hope is repeatedly dangled and withdrawn, it keeps people emotionally tethered to a situation that no longer serves them. And the audience recognizes that too, because many have lived it. They know what it feels like to wait for change that never comes, and to be told that patience is proof. This was never just about an apology. It was about whether the pattern would finally be broken or quietly restored. Because words can sound sincere while behavior stays the same, and hope can be offered without change ever coming. And that is the real question left hanging here. Not can forgiveness happen, but will anything truly be different this time? Or are we watching the cycle reset one more time? This was never just about an apology. It was about whether the pattern would finally be broken or quietly restored. Because words can sound sincere while behavior stays the same, and hope can be offered without change ever coming. And that is the real question left hanging here. Not can forgiveness happen, but will anything truly be different this time? Or are we watching the cycle reset one more time?